Cairo recaps here. Today, I'm going to explain a comedy, drama, and fantasy film called About Time. Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The Lake family lives in harmony at their seaside house. There's the ever-busy mother, Mary, the always-active father, James, the charming yet absent-minded uncle, Desmond, the awkward son, Tim, and the free-spirited daughter, Catherine or Kit Kat. Every year, they host a New Year's Eve party with family and friends. At this year's gathering, Tim navigates through the crowd, feeling awkward and dragged around by his friend, Jay. During the countdown to the new year, a girl he's been dancing with, Polly, leans in for a kiss, but he shakes her hand instead, leaving her disappointed. The following day, Tim wakes up, overwhelmed with embarrassment and a terrible hangover. He's called into his father's study. James, his father, then tells Tim that he's about to share a secret he's never told anyone before. According to James, the men born into their family, including Tim, can travel back in time, but it's limited to their own lifetime. They cannot go to a past they didn't experience or a place they'd never been. To do this, they must go to a dark place like a large cupboard and think of the place and time they want to be, and they'll find themselves there. Unsurprisingly, Tim thinks this is a joke. He shakes his head at his father, believing he's pulling his leg. To prove it isn't true, Tim goes inside the closet and thinks of last night's New Year's Eve party. After a few seconds, he steps out and is shocked to see himself dressed in his clothes from yesterday. Music and conversations echo from downstairs. He heads down and is immediately pulled by Jay, evading a table that he previously knocked over. At the countdown, he kisses Polly, who reacts giddily. Afterward, Tim goes back into the closet and travels to the present. Realizing the time travel is real, he listens to his father's experience with the ability, discovering that it's how James seemingly had a lot of time for them. James advises Tim not to use the ability for money or power, so Tim decides he'll use it to find love. That summer, Kit Kat invites her boyfriend's cousin, Charlotte, to stay at the beach house for 2 months. As the family sunbathes with their guest one afternoon, Tim hopes to get on Charlotte's good side. Seeing an opportunity, Tim agrees to put sunscreen on Charlotte's back but ends up spilling the bottle on her. Feeling humiliated, he travels back in time and acts more casually and carefully about it. Throughout the summer, Tim tries to impress Charlotte but fails each time until it's too late. Finally, it's Charlotte's last day at the house. On the evening before she leaves, Tim hopes to confess his feelings but is instantly shot down before he can speak, discovering that Kit Kat already warned Charlotte he might do this. Charlotte wonders if things would have turned out differently if he'd talked to her before her last night at their home. That thought gives him an idea. Tim travels back in time to confess to Charlotte in the middle of summer. But this time, Charlotte tells him to ask her again on her last night at their home. This confirms that he never had a chance with her, no matter what. Tim finally gives up on pursuing Charlotte. The day after she leaves, Tim leaves home and moves to London, where he stays with James' friend, Harry. Tim is excited for the new chapter ahead, but disappointed to learn that Harry is a short-fused playwright. In the first 6 months, Tim has no luck in romance, finding that his career as a lawyer acquaints him mostly with other men. His luck turns one night when Jay takes him to Don Lenoir, the restaurant where guests dine in total darkness. Here, they are seated next to a woman named Mary and her friend, Joanna. In the darkness, Tim and Mary get to know each other and have a wonderful time. After dinner, Tim and Jay finally meet the girls face to face. Tim is stunned upon seeing Mary, and it's evident sparks have flown as the couple lay eyes on each other. She gives him her phone number before parting ways. Tim walks home with a skip in his step only to be greeted by Harry's angry growl. The opening of his play was ruined by the lead actor forgetting his lines. Wanting to make things better, Tim goes back in time and joins Harry at the theater just before opening night. He approaches the lead actor, Tom, and convinces him to practice his lines. This works, but then another actor forgets his lines instead. Tim goes back again and helps him out. The play becomes a success. However, when Tim checks his phone, he realizes Mary's number is gone. His travels in time erased their lovely evening. Feeling distraught, Tim joins an ecstatic Harry for breakfast the next day. Harry shares the newspaper, where Tim finds an ad for a Kate Moss exhibition in the city. Remembering Mary is a fan of Kate Moss, he spends the week at the exhibit, hoping to run into her. After a whole week, Mary finally walks in and Tim nervously approaches her. Their interaction doesn't go smoothly, and he learns Mary now has a boyfriend named Rupert. Tim learns the details of the party where Mary met Rupert and goes back in time to stop it. That summer, Tim takes Mary home to meet his parents. Mary and his mother get along, and Tim spends quality time with his father. To his surprise, Kit Kat is also home, having had a horrible time in London. The Lake family bursts with joy upon the announcement of Tim and Mary's wedding and Mary's pregnancy. Their wedding ceremony is filled with romance and laughter, even though a storm hits during the ceremony and reception. The tent tears and blows away, so everyone takes cover in the house. Tim goes back in time and switches his best man when Rory, Harry, and Jay mess up their speeches until finally, he chooses his father. Months later, Mary gives birth to their daughter, Posy. Tim is mesmerized by raising a child, both the precious moments and the difficulties. They move into a new house, and soon it's Posy's first birthday. All the guests arrive, including Harry and Rory, but Kit Kat is late. The doorbell rings, and Tim answers it, but instead of Kit Kat, it's her troublesome boyfriend, Jimmy. They argued earlier that day, ended with Kit Kat driving alone. Kit Kat had been drinking, leading her to crash her car on the way to Tim's house. Hoping to save her, Tim goes back and picks her up from her home instead. But this doesn't solve the problem. Kit Kat has a drinking problem from her unhappy relationship with Jimmy. Tim talks to his sister, hoping to reach her. When it fails, he takes Kit Kat back in time to the New Year's Eve party where she met Jimmy. But instead of flirting with him, she releases her pent-up anger and punches him, even though he doesn't remember her in this timeline. The siblings return to the present, and immediately, Kit Kat realizes her feelings for Jay. This time, she dates Jay and their relationship turns out far better. Having saved his sister's life and happiness, Tim heads home but finds he has a son instead of his daughter, Posy. His heart sinks. Immediately, he goes into a cupboard and travels to the past when his son was born to talk to James. James confirms that any change made before a child is born will likely result in a different child being conceived. If he wishes to keep Posy, he can never change anything that happened before she was born. Unable to accept losing the daughter he knew, Tim goes back again, undoing the changes to Kit Kat's life and allows her car accident to happen. With Kit Kat in the hospital, Tim and Mary stay by her side until she recovers. Their support leads Kit Kat to decide to change her life for the better. Remembering the alternate timeline where she's happy with Jay, Tim suggests she start seeing him. Arriving home from the hospital, Tim cherishes his daughter's presence. Their happiness inspires him to have another child. Despite Mary's protests at first, they conceive their son 2 years later. One evening, Tim helps Mary prepare to meet her company's best-selling author, but they accidentally leave Posy downstairs, where she destroys the manuscript from Mary's office. Tim wants to use time travel to fix it, but their night is interrupted by a call from his mother, announcing James has been diagnosed with terminal cancer. Tim, Mary, and Kit Kat visit the beach house, where Tim talks to his father. Their time travel cannot undo the cancer without risking Tim and Kit Kat's births. James gives Tim what he deems a far more important lesson about their ability. First, go through life as normally as possible, with all the everyday tensions and worries. Second, after living a day once for the first time, go back and relive its moments while paying attention to how sweet the world can be. Tim follows that advice and finds happiness in both the mundane and the special moments of his life. However, there are still days he doesn't wish to relive, such as the day his father died. Not ready to say goodbye, Tim travels back to visit his father while he's still in good health. After James' death, Tim is comforted that he can still visit his father in the past whenever he misses him. One day, though, Mary decides she wants a third child. Tim hesitates, knowing that having a third child will prevent him from visiting his father again. After much thought, he lets go of the past and decides to carry on with the future. He agrees to have another child. Months later, Mary is heavily pregnant and will give birth soon. This is Tim's last chance to visit his father in the past. He goes back and plays table tennis with James for the final time. Seeing the sadness in Tim's eyes, James realizes it's their last time together. He accepts this and lets his son know he agrees with his decision. As a treat, they both travel back to when Tim was a young boy. Both in better health and with more energy, James and Tim run and play by the beach for the last time. Tim says his final goodbyes and returns to the present when his third child is born. Years pass. Tim continues with life normally, spending both the laughs and tears with his family. He has completed his family with Mary, while Kit Kat also gives birth to her child with Jay. One morning, he lets Mary sleep in and prepares breakfast for his kids, savoring their presence. Tim decides never to time travel again, living each day as if it's the second time he's lived it. This time, he focuses on appreciating life, from the big events to the smallest details.